Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's Pete here again from the Pain Toolkit, and yes, we're back with the Pain Toolkit Q&A, question and answers, where healthcare professionals or people living with pain, they send us through their questions, anything to do with around pain self-management. And thanks very much. I wanted to say thank you very much for sending through the questions. We've got four more today, two from healthcare professionals and two from people living with pain. And as you can see, we've got someone new. We've got Dave can't be with us today. Dave Oxley is doing something with the family. So we've got we did say last week that we would start inviting guests along. So our first guest is Sue Schellinck. Good afternoon to you, Sue. Sorry, I should say good morning to you because you're over there. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Schellinck. I'm an occupational therapist. I live on the very, very far west coast of Canada, in Vancouver Island. And I've worked with people with pain for probably the last 20 years. I have a certain interest, especially with people with complex regional pain syndrome. I've had a
Mm.
support group every week for over 10 years, and then monthly after that. And I learned so much from their experiences, and so I'm very grateful to be here and to learn from you two and to try and figure out some answers to these questions.
Fantastic. Keith, do you want to introduce yourself in case someone hasn't, because we all know each other really well.
We do.
But, do you want to give yourself a quick intro?
Absolutely. First of all, I wanted to say, Sue, thanks for joining us today. Always lovely to see you. And like Sue, I'm also from the far west part of Canada, not quite as far. I'm in British Columbia as well, but I'm in the southern part of the province called the Okanagan in Kelowna. And for those that don't know me, I've been living with pain for almost 40 years. And in the last 15 or so, I've kind of got my fingers in some advocacy and research work just to sort of share the things that I think I know, but most importantly, learn from others like both of you. Mhm.
Okay. Well, thanks both. So let's get cracking on the very first question. So this question is the first couple of from left over from last week.
Mhm.
It's a person living with pain called Jack, and Jack asked, "How often should I ask? How often should I check in with my healthcare provider while I learn and practice my self-management skills?"
Yeah, that's a great question. Great question.
Mhm.
What was your guys' experience? Did you check in a lot, or how did you go through this?
So I'll jump in there because I have an interesting background. I never had the opportunity to go through like first of all a pain management program. So I kind of had to learn the hard way and had to stumble my way through, which didn't go. It could have gone better, but there was no program and I was not given any direction. But to Jack's question, the first thing that comes to my mind is once you're sort of on that path. I think it's important for those that live with pain to recognize, I think we know, and hopefully ahead of time, when it's time to have that check-in with the healthcare provider, because you're doing your own thing, whatever your thing is, whatever your meaningful movement is, or your techniques. But when you start to find maybe you're having a little bit of a challenge or something isn't right, or the things that have been working well maybe aren't anymore, before you let that get too far and you get down that road and like, oh, okay, things are really going off the rails, great time to go back to whomever your sort of go-to healthcare provider or providers are, like your OT, your PT, your doc, whatever, whomever they are, and just have that check in and say, like, here's what I'm finding, and see what you guys, what they can do to work together to kind of get you back on track. So, I don't know, Pete, it'd be interesting for you. My mind doesn't tell me there's like a regular every 2 weeks or anything. You might need to do check-ins more regularly as you find your groove, but if you start to find what you're doing isn't as effective as it was,
Mm.
you want to go back to them and say, hey, what can we do to make this better?
Yeah.
Excellent.
For me, really, we could, after the finishing the pain management program, they said if you get any problems to give them a call, and they would answer any calls. And I only really, I think in the early days, or perhaps I was being a bit of a bit wussy, really. I, yeah, I don't know because I was still sort of struggling a little bit because
Mhm.
it was a 2 week program and there was a hell of a lot of information to remember from the 2 weeks and the exercise thing. I think I was doing the stretch and exercising, but I suppose I was a bit impatient and things wasn't
Yeah.
progressing
Mhm.
like I thought they would. Anyway, I rang up and I always remember Vicky Harding. She's a fantastic girl. She gave me a bit. I called it tough love. She said, okay, what are you doing? Double up on it, all right? See ya." Something along that line. It was, yeah, but I don't know what it was exactly for me anyway.
Mm.
That is the attitude because it was what I could. Otherwise, I think I would be calling her again, all that. But she wasn't. She trying to get rid of me, but I think she was so experienced that it was. I call it tough love, like, look, you've got the skills, you've got the tools, now just crack on with it, like, and etc.
Right.
And I still have a lot of respect for her. I think she retired a few years ago, and but for me, she was a fantastic physiotherapist, and the main reason why I had a lot of respect for her is because she had persistent pain herself, like,
Mm.
on the call sheet there was a session on X-rays and stuff like that, and she, showed all the X-rays, and she said, "This is what happened. This is so." Anyway, it turned out we're all looking at each other, like, "Oh, look at that! They really, but they look really rough." Like, turns out they were hers, like.
Right.
So for me, I had massive respect for her. Like, she walked around, she practiced what she preached, like. So yeah, that's my own experience, really. But I think, as you say, Keith, if you feel that something isn't quite, or you want something to explain a little bit more in detail, or you forget something, then I think hopefully there was an opportunity to go back and ask whoever was running the program for just a little bit of an update and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Great answers. I love both. I think one of the things that I often ask people, and it's not a formal assessment, but I'll say if there's a scale of barely surviving to thriving, where are you?
Mhm. Mm.
Um, because what we know is that if people are barely surviving, they're more often in that sympathetic, that fight or flight system. And what we also know is that the brain, the blood in the brain actually redistributes to the back of our brain when we're in fight or flight, right? And unfortunately, that's so we can run or jump or fight. Unfortunately, that leaves not enough sort of blood in well, there is enough blood, but not enough resources coming and going from the cells in the front, which is where we do our all executive functioning stuff. So 2 weeks, if you're in survival and Pete, you're doing a 2 week course, I would be surprised you remembered anything, really,
Mm.
mm,
just don't have that ability. Physiologically, we don't have the ability to actually hold on to those things. So, if someone's more in a survival state, I will most definitely expect phone calls from them, or I might shoot them an email. Hey, how's it going? And I would expect that they're struggling. I would expect that they would forget and I always write down like after an assessment, I write down and I ask them, what did we talk about? How would you say this in your words? So they
Mhm.
have it in their words, what they have. Because if they're trying to listen to me and take notes, it's too much. It's too much.
mm,
Right.
I think for anyone in any medical position, not just chronic
mm.
pain. So I would expect someone to check in quite a bit, and I'm happy to field any questions if they're in survival mode. And I don't get tired of the questions that are repeated over and over again. Because
Right.
for the group I told you about with CRPS, I would say, "Hey,
Mhm.
have I told you guys about this?" And they're like, "We have CRPS. You probably did. Tell us again."
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, so I would definitely expect a lot. So if you're in survival, like you guys said, if you're struggling, I think the other thing is we don't, kind of more to your point about, Pete, you phoning your practitioner and saying, "Hey, I'm struggling," or "What should I do?" And she says, "Double down." Yeah, I think we need to really sort of think about that. I love that she was such a great example, but we also know that I often say for one of my myths, I start most of my talks with myths. So if we tried harder, you'd be better. And everyone says no because they've tried really hard, right? So it's an idea of I'm happy to be that guide, or we should be happy as practitioners to be that guide. Because when stress comes into your life, you think can just try harder and be better. But that's when we need to go more
Hmm.
to self-compassion. We need to go more to soothing, relaxing things. Great a walk if it doesn't set everything off, but more the meditation, more relaxing music, more what we call the passive stuff. I used to be very active self-care. You got to be active self-care. And now I'm like, listen, if you're struggling, have a hot bath if that works for you and listen to some
Hmm.
music, you know?
Yeah.
Really
Hmm.
need to
Hmm.
like listen for our nervous system and soothe us. So I'm happy if someone's in the survival mode to hear from them a lot. I'm happy if stress jumps into their life. I'm happy if it's not working. I had one guy email me at 3 in the morning where he was doing a sleep routine. He's like, how many days do I have to do this? I haven't slept in 3 days. Just like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I think if it's getting worse, if you've got more stress, if it's generally not working,
Mm.
um, then
I
then
think
I
I,
think
I
we
think
just need a little bit of help, a little bit of encouragement. Often it's just, you know
yeah,
what, keep going. It'll take a while. You're doing it well.
Hmm.
Keep going. That's usually what I say, but I think we need that.
yeah.
Hmm.
I think it also depends on the circumstances at home, etc., or work-wise, etc. So there's lots of the different sort of things there going on because it's not. This isn't like going to school, etc. There's living with persistent pain. There's a lot of stuff going on, like emotional wise, headspace and whatnot, the physical pain, um, and etc. Like so.
Yeah.
I think it depends. Hopefully, I mean, I think she knew me. She pretty much just summed me up from the get-go, really. But
Hmm.
Sometimes
uh,
absolutely it is a double down. I love it when people
yeah,
reach out 'cause I know they're actually trying. It's the people who I don't hear
Hmm.
from
mm,
that
Right.
you're not so well
What I
trying.
uh what I love about what you said too, and there's people like me who really resonate when there's that sort of connection to, like you say, when you're in that sympathetic state, like you say you can't really think, you can't process. And when you for some people when they understand it, they're like, oh, okay, like I'm not just not trying hard enough or I'm lazy. It's like I'm all of my energy is focused because I'm trying to run away from the bear that is attacking me. So that can, for some people, help them understand that it's not that they're not trying, it's just sort of this brain sort of health.
Right.
Um, and then, I mean, I'm always reminded that this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
And when you want to get into this, and I know that's the way I was like, I'm
yeah,
doing this, and by next week I should be better. And
yeah,
it's like, no, like this is you got to train for it and you got to work up to it and you're going to have setbacks because what is progression? Progression isn't this, it's this, but as long
Yeah.
as you're moving forward and
yeah,
you're
Yes.
going to hit that goal and it's going to have some setbacks, but
Yeah.
you got to just, you're in it for the long run. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. And I think if people realize they're actually working on their nervous system, they're not working so much
Hmm.
muscles or their breathing, they're really
Right?
on their
Yep.
nervous system.
Yeah.
That certainly helps because yeah, it makes it a
Yeah.
bit of.
Yeah.
And I think
Great
with that,
question. Yeah.
yeah, with the cognition, like if you're thinking all day, you could be exhausted and in pain and you haven't even moved, and that's frustrating for people. She's like, I didn't even move and I'm in pain. Like
Hmm.
it's
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
hard.
Okay, next one. This is from
Hmm.
Simon, a healthcare professional. Uh, he asked, "What are the common stuff?" I keep scratching my nose, and I'll hate a bit bonkers this afternoon. Um, what are the most common misconceptions about pain self-management programs that we need to address?
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good one. Have you guys come up across any? I always like to start with your experiences.
Oh, you have to go first, Pete, because I've never had the opportunity to go through a program. So I'm a self-taught,
Yeah,
made it up as I went kind of guy. So,
I think the actual word it goes back to the word self-management because it's not really a common word or common phrase, I should say. It's from my I mean back in the day when I first started off, it was called self-care,
mhm,
Right.
and then when I first started working for the NHS Expert Patients Program, we were using the term self-management because it was part of the Stanford model chronic disease self-management program. And so now we've gone from saying self-care to self-management. And as it was sort of to differentiate between the two. Self-care was like just doing just everyday stuff like brush, if you had hair, brushing your hair, brushing your teeth, washing yourself, etc., and keep yourself clean. Like basic stuff. Self-care is that. But self-management is about taking action. It's and I remember reading a paper by a lady, an Australian pain, and I think she was I'm not sure she was a pain nurse, but Australian nurse called Debbie Craylick, and
Mm.
she said about self-management is about creating order.
Hmm.
I'm not one for reading research papers, but it was uh, so clearly, I really understood it. Because when I read a lot of research papers, I think, God, I almost like reading it. This is too much. I don't understand it, but I really got it. And she says about self-managing, about it creating order, and it's a doing thing, something you have to do. It's not,
Mhm.
and so, but trying to explain that to people we have to remember as well from different cultures, different way. I mean, in German, there is no word for self-management.
Mm.
Yeah, so when I started working with my doctor mate, Dr. Reinhard Sittel, he said to me, "We haven't got a word for this," and oh God, what do we do?
Mhm.
And so we just called it pain management. I think that's the only term they could really use. But and a different, and I think also, um, I think you guys did it over there in Canada, or is it Dr. Williams? Is it Dr. Williams said he said about adding the word supported self-management?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because a lot of people thinking that self-management is about, well, get off and sort it out yourself, sort of thing,
Mhm.
So um, it, we're in a bit of a pickle, really, where the word self-management or even supported self-management, it really doesn't mean a lot to put that person in the street. So we're using it. We know
Or
what it is.
yeah,
But if
yeah.
you go, I mean, I've tried it. I've gone up to people and say, are you are you self-managing? And look at you thinking, what, what do you mean by that? And I always remember asking her. I was up in Liverpool once at a pain management conference and British Pain Society annual scientific meeting, and I was talking to the one of the docs up there, and I said about got to stop using medical phrases, and I try to explain to it, I actually demonstrate. So one of those security dudes, he was standing over there, the ones with the sleeve, his arms you couldn't see his hands, like it was too big for
Mhm.
his coat. But I had chatted with him before. So I said, hey, son, come over here. So if I said to you, you got back pain, and I said to you, you had to self-manage, I said, what would you do? He said, I'd go and see the GP.
Yeah.
Mhm.
See,
Right.
that really highlighted the fact that we're using words that a man or woman in the street will have no connection with whatsoever, and that's the struggling bit, I think.
Fascinating. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because it's self-management means so many things. It's a word that we need to be all encompassing, but at the same time, that sometimes leaves room for interpretation as to what that means. Like, yeah, I'm managing myself. I got dressed today,
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think I landed where you did, Pete. It's about how it's presented and the words and self-managed, just like you said, a lot of it comes across if it's not presented well and because it's still not well understood, then it sounds like you're on your own. Like, it's up to you to do this. And I'm reminded it's a lot like, when people are told, well, you just need to accept that you have pain. And then
yeah,
people are like, okay, you're giving up on me and all of this. And that's why I love Bronnie Lennox Thompson's term of willingness, right? Like, what am I willing to do to help myself go from surviving to thriving? So with self-management, is like, what am I willing to do to help myself, have the best quality life I can? But it comes down to, and you're right, it was Dr. Owen Williamson who years ago said to us, Pete, he likes to refer to as supported self-management because you should never be on your own.
No.
And when this is introduced wrong, which is here's an old tattered pamphlet on self-management. See
Like,
ya,
watch this video.
right? The message is good luck. Like, I'm done with you. There's nothing more I can do because I'm a fixer, not a supporter. So away you go. When in fact, your PT, your OT, your doctor, your massage therapist are all supporters and they can help you. But if the messaging is wrong, which happens so much in healthcare, people are left with, well, you've just given up on me and it's now all up to me and I'm already just trying to get through my day. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions.
Yeah, I and that's yeah, excellent points. Well, I'm saying excellent points because a lot of those are mine as well. So
They were perfect.
are they excellent or do we just think alike? No, yeah, and so I had the interesting experience of working at an interdisciplinary pain program where initially when I got there, people would see the physicians first and then they'd say, "Oh, you should do some self-management or something," right? I don't have anything for you. Try self-management or try go to see the rehab group. And so in that time, I heard a lot of, yeah, that I'm just on my own now and nobody's here to help me, right? Like with the self,
Hmm.
or you're just like you said, you're just giving up on me. The other one I've heard from people saying that they feel if you say, well, all you need is self-management. And you know where I heard this from? Do you know that 5-minute video from Australia, which is a great video, but it's what you can do about pain in 5 minutes or
Yeah.
something. It's quite old now, but a
Hmm.
lot of people came out of that saying, "Oh, so pain is my fault." So this is the
Oh.
about, oh yeah, you can use meds, but wind them down and you can do this, but you need to move more and you need to do this more. And they'd walk away going, so it's my fault. Like I haven't, it's my fault. I'm in pain. Um,
Hmm.
so a lot of that, so I actually stopped using that video because it was a great video. I
Mm.
still think it's a great video.
Yeah.
And maybe if I set it up a bit better, um, yeah,
There
but
is another one after
Mm.
that. They did another one, which is
did
a
they? Okay. I'll have to look because they do great videos. I'm not slamming the video. I'm just like you said, it's the words that we use, and it's also the person's perception. If they've already heard that
Yeah.
from somebody, if they feel that themselves, that's the message they're getting. Because lots of people didn't get that message.
mm,
Hmm.
I think I would add is that I would do self-care, self-management, but I don't have enough money for that. And I think the other one that I would hear a lot is, oh, I don't need self-management. I'm a really positive thinker. So, so
Oh.
I look at life positively and I'm really positive. So that was the one, that's the other one I kind of get that it's, yeah,
what
yeah.
can we
It's a
use instead
tough
of the
one.
word? I mean, I know it's embedded now in healthcare, isn't it? Into all
Mm.
our papers now. But I mean, it's still, I think, still very confusing to the man or woman in the street. So what other do you know? I mean, I've been racking my brain for years on it, but what else do you use?
That's something I'd have to think on. I don't know that we have a better example of that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
really, I'm with you, Sue. I just because I mean, it is about management. Like, I mean, management, that's what it is. I get stuck on the fact that I think it's because it is not properly presented from the start. And if you have a bad introduction to something, you're going to have a bad experience with something. So when the healthcare provider says, "Oh, you just need to self-manage," that
Yeah.
that just it sends the message
Yeah,
that it's all on you. And
And you're all alone. That is
yeah,
in the name.
so when it's time to talk about this or broach that subject, instead of saying, you just need to self-manage, it's like, okay, we've done these things and here's where you're at and talk about all of these things that we know about pain. And now let's just talk about what we can do together to help support you. And here's what I can do as your practitioner, and here's the things that you can start to do. And try to set it up a positive instead of like,
yeah,
good luck.
yeah.
Because that,
Almost like a life plan or something. That
yeah,
a life plan for you, or
yeah,
I don't know.
I'll tell you,
yeah, but yeah,
I'm digging these questions, mate. These
yeah.
some really like last week. With the, well, I'm going to go over that again, like, but some of these are really thought provoking, aren't they? Because I'm sitting there thinking, well, should we just go back and just call it pain management?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Should
it
we dump
is.
the word self? Just call it
And
pain
I
management?
think we have a tendency, we as society and all that, to overcomplicate a situation when I think and because this is my opinion, so I believe I'm right. I think we just fundamentally got it wrong in the presentation, right? Because we haven't taught those in healthcare what self-management really is or supported self-management. So they don't know how to deliver the message. They're just like, oh yeah, I remember I went to this course. And Sue told me that self-management's important, so I have to tell my patient they need to self-manage. Good, I'm done. Like, like
Yeah.
that doesn't help. So
I
yeah.
think I totally agree. And interestingly, I'm doing a talk to my local GPs. They have, and I do quite a bit of work with GPs around the province and
Good.
whatnot. So I'm so excited because it's a 2 hour talk, and they're like, "Oh, well, we could get a second speaker." And if 2 hour, I'm like, "Oh, please, I could do 8 hours." Just, and they're like, "And we also want experiential." I'm like, "No problem." I have no problem with that. You've been to my talks, Keith. You know how much I get you moving and
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome.
I think the
Awesome.
one thing that I don't like about pain management, that word, which I think is more describing of what's actually happening, is that often the pain doesn't change for so long, right? Like often it's the mood gets better, the energy gets higher, the thinking becomes
Yeah.
clearer. They fun people I hear all the time. I had one lady who was in bed 22 hours a day when I first met her. I'm doing this. She was self-employed. I restarted my business. I'm going on so many calls a week. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But I still have pain. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
wow. That's how it
Yeah.
works. The function comes
Yeah.
back first, and then when the nervous system trusts that you're going to take care of yourself, then the pain eventually over
Right.
time comes down.
I think with
Mhm.
self-management, it covers long-term conditions. That's why I think we've got to stick with it because
Yes.
it's self-management of the other ones like asthma and
Yep.
heart disease or COVID, non-COVID, and all that. So it covers all it covers all the other long-term conditions as well. I mean, we just add the word pain into it, so it's sort of
Slow it
differentiates.
down.
But it's
Right.
self when we going back to the Stanford course, wasn't a pain, but the course was about long-term conditions. It wasn't about
Mhm.
over here. I had to adapt the because we're getting so many people coming on the course with pain. The
Right.
lady at the Department of Health asked me to write an add-on module, which I did, which we called the Persistent Pain Program. And so it was like an add-on module that they could do specific programs around the country, but which aimed at people living with pain, because I think there was people couldn't get it. The thing is it's a fantastic program, the Stanford course, because it didn't no matter what health condition you had, it was mental health or physical health, but everybody could identify with bits and bobs, and it was all about moving on as well, so that's setting goals, action plans, etc. But they was getting a hell of a lot of they was getting a hell of a lot of people with pain, and so I had to sit down over quite a few weekends and adapt another add-on module back then. But anyway,
I've got this burning thought I gotta say, so you can go on to your next question though, Pete. Sue,
like,
you dropped a pearl of wisdom there, and I just want to restate it. Um, Function comes back first.
Yeah.
I know for me, I was chasing for the pain to go away. You know, every intervention, every surgery, make the pain go
That's your
away.
focus, right?
And because I mean, that's natural, right? Ow, it hurts, make the ow go away.
Sleep.
And there you go. That's it. And it wasn't until I started to shift in my mind, I'm like, maybe this pain's going to be around for a while. So what can I do to live better with it? Function comes back first. And then when your body and your brain and your environment in your life is like, hey, I can get back to doing things I want. Now you're into a different space where then the pain, and it probably isn't going to go away, but it's going to be less invasive. I always say pain is the shadow that walks beside me now. It used to be the shadow that would walk in front of me and trip me up all the time.
Wow. But now you're
So
facing
it would, and all kudos to Green Day. I stole that from their song. The shadow that walks beside me. But it's always there. But it used to be out front, getting in my way and poking me in the eye and tripping me. Function comes back first.
yeah. And we focus on that and not focus on getting rid of pain because people focus on that. And I get it. 100% I get
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was what we put our
Yeah.
mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, interesting.
Okay. Love that. Function
I'm
comes back
just looking
first. I
at the
love it.
clock now, so I think we've got time for one more question. Well,
All right.
we'll carry on one. from Helena, a healthcare professional. Well, we'll start with that one next week. This is
Mhm.
the last question for this Q&A. Is from Maureen, who's a person living with pain. She says, "How can I stay motivated to continue the self-management techniques over the long term?"
Yeah.
Okay. So I do have some thoughts on that. Twofold. One, it comes back to I think it's understanding that you're going to be in it for the long run. So it's going to be slow gains probably at first. And like you said, Pete, at the beginning, after 2 weeks, you're like, you made a call because like, why isn't this all working? Well, it's going to take longer than that. So it's hard because after all this time, if you're told this is the thing now, you want the thing to work right away. But you
Yeah,
so to take a step back and say in the long run, I think the motivation comes from when you do start to find that groove and you notice the little gains. And that was what for me, it was like, oh, well, I did this thing
yeah,
and the thing that I thought was stupid before it was dumb, it actually kind of helped a little bit. Well, if it helped a little bit, well, if I keep doing it, and you kind of find over time that it starts to work. And for me, that was the motivation. I'm like, oh, well, this actually does do something, even though I thought it was all stupid and they were all full of crap. Um, I think the motivation can come from within. I think one of the biggest barriers we have is overcoming that it needs to work right away, and in 2 weeks I should be better.
yeah.
Right.
So,
I think I always try and encourage people if they can buddy up in some way,
Nice.
like on the Pain
hmm
Toolkit Academy.
hmm
We've got like a community. So there's two
Yeah.
courses on there. There's a course there for healthcare professionals and also another course for people living with pain. But in the middle is a community hub where
hmm
people can join that for free once they've signed up, etc. And they can they can chat with each other. I've built different platforms like the virtual reality platform, which is free to use. They can go and, as long as they register, make themselves into an avatar. They'll meet people on there to have a chat with each other. So people need people, and I think we learn from each other.
hmm
And but it's finding out what works for you. Support groups. I know sometimes support groups have got a bit of a bad rap because of people, sort of a bit of I call them the Uncle Alberts, like a bit of a war story thing. They're still stuck.
Yeah.
Um, but I think we learn a lot from each other people's experience.
Mhm.
Um, so like the 12-step programs work, like, how does that work? It's because people will go into a meeting or whether it's online who are like-minded, but they're looking to hear from learn about ways on how to deal with an
hmm
addiction of some type, like, So
hmm
they're listening to others and see, oh yeah, I'll try that out. And also we found out on the expert patients program that people were meeting up because this come up on there, like, well, because the 6 week course went really quick, like,
Mhm.
and we said, look, if you guys want to meet up, then do, buddy up so that you can do it. And then the motivation, it can be there. You get the motivation from other people. I know for a fact that people did meet for months and years. I know a group. There's an area, a place down in South Essex called Southend, and I know a group there that met every month or so in the town, etc. Over a coffee, and they become all good friends, etc. Like, so
hmm
it's about finding. I think finding someone else that's like-minded. Don't they do that in? I know down at the gym I go to, a lot of people there. They work with another person,
Right.
so they're buddying up with someone, so they're not down there. Right, let's try that. Right, let's go onto that machine. Right, they'll let some like you have a go now. Blah blah blah, and they buddy up, sort of thing. I think having a buddy, it's like, hey, listen, look at us guys. How do we work? Just because we buddied up. How do I like with
hmm
Keith? I met Keith back in 2018
hmm
at the conference there in Boston, and we buddied up, like, because it's like-minded person, like and it was through that connection. Look at the fantastic stuff. Well, I think it's been the fantastic
Hmm.
done that we've done over the years, Keith. So it's a bit. I don't. I think I don't. I very rarely meet people who manage their pain on their own. They've got to. They need someone along there for that bit of encouragement, But as I say, we've got that. We built that into the academy, and if I mean, if anybody ever wants to have a chat with me, they can do, etc. So I'm quite happy to do that. I'm open. I even do arrange a Zoom call on Christmas Day, because I know
Hmm.
and Easter, because I know it can be tough for people and stuff like that. So, but I mean, what's your take on it?
Yeah, you guys have really covered some great points. And often when I looked through the AA program when I was starting doing group work, what I
Hmm.
loved about it, to me, it seemed like it was non-judgmental accountability with social connection.
Mm.
And I love that. So I've always tried to implement that in any of the groups I've ever done. And it's an interesting question about that being motivated. I just want to talk for a quick sec because most of the people that I meet in chronic pain, um, they are very high achievers. Doesn't matter what their actual job is, but they're very high achievers. And
Yeah.
to be a high achiever in anything, you have to push through physically, you have to push through cognitively, you have to push through emotionally, and put all your needs aside. And often I'll say, "Hey, on your work day, did you have lunch?" "Oh no, I had to go. Oh, did you go to the
Hmm.
bathroom?" I don't think so.
Yeah.
When we want to keep motivated, it's hard. I have to keep in mind because a lot of those people, their motivation is to try harder and work harder and do everything, which is
Hmm.
what the nervous system needs. So, yeah, just a little bit on that. So that can be tricky. The research tells us routines work to keep motivated, giving a
Hmm.
little a morning routine and evening routine. And also pairing things up. So when you brush your teeth, then maybe do 10 squats or whatever you might, or do some breathing or something like
Hmm.
that. So bring up things that you naturally have going on in your life. I often say for people, especially with digestive issues, if you're going to have a meal, often we're panicking and we're cutting and our hands hurt as I'm cutting these carrots and then I sit down and I quickly eat.
Hmm.
Instead, sit there, do a couple minutes of breathing, get yourself in that rest
Yeah.
and digest before you actually start to eat. So, but if you compare these things together, so making lunch with breathing, with eating, and that kind of stuff, that helps. Small goals, they tell us, are really important. I think Pete, I saw something you had that ladder where the rungs were like super far apart.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
yeah. If you want
Yeah.
these little tiny things. Of
Yeah.
course, celebrate your success. This is kind of what the research tells us. I would add in, oh, and support, of course. We've talked about that though. Have fun. Like really, if we can make this fun, we're
Hmm.
going to do it. If we
Yeah.
go, oh, I
Yeah.
have to do this. So
Hmm.
I say to people, this is the science. This is what we think why it works because we don't really know, but this is what we think. Make it your own. And they'll come back. Well,
Yeah.
I kind of changed it to this. I'm like, perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah.
However that can work for you, I think is good. And the other thing, Keith, you've talked about this, so have you, Pete, is to be, and I love this term, it's from acceptance and commitment therapy, be flexibly persistent. I know Bronnie uses this all the time. I love
Hmm.
because it's that persistent, it's being flexible. And then I guess reflecting back, I think, sometimes you don't realize how far we've come
Hmm.
and how it used to be, and we're like, oh, I actually have come quite far. So,
Right.
also, but I think if I were to say one thing, I would just say have fun with it. Really have fun
Yeah.
with what.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we know that
Yeah.
humming is really good for your voice. So, I mean, if you can sing, sing, and that's the same thing, right? We've still got the
Right.
vibration going, and yeah, I
Yeah.
do that when I was around. It's because I don't want to cause pain, but anyway, that's a different story. So,
I love that flexible persistence and just like you said, Sue, have fun and be kind to yourself, right?
yes.
And understand that because we get it in our head. Oh, it's interesting. You talk about a lot of people we work with are high achievers, right? So they have to think it's like this straight line, linear A to B, and I'm going to go from not great to perfection. And we know that path is all over the map. And just, Pete goes back to having setback plans and just understanding you're going to have your days when it doesn't go so well. Instead of saying, that's it, I'm a failure, it didn't work. It's like, I'm just going to take a break. I'm going to catch my breath. I'm going to give myself a little bit of self-compassion. And then tomorrow, I'm just going to do what I can and start again. Because it can be, t and again, there's a lot going on in people's headspace. So they've been doing this for years and they just want it to be over and they want to get to the finish line right away. And that finish line, unfortunately, it's never a finish line. That's the thing, because we're never crossing the finish line. We're just moving forward. Mhm.
I wish people would recognize it's their nervous system that puts on the brakes, these high achievers, right? And I try and tell people that because if you're going to climb a mountain, it's not your muscles that'll stop or your breathing, it's your nervous system that'll stop you.
Right,
So
right.
being
Yeah.
listening to that and being kind and having fun. My endorphin prescription, which I say all the time, is half an hour of laughter every day. Whereas if people come to this talk
Mm,
and they're, not really wanting to come to this talk, but they have to come when I used to do this program. And the first thing I say is half an hour of laughter, like laugh every day for half an hour, and then half an hour of relaxation, and then
right.
half an hour of movement, giving that whole sort of perspective of keeping yourself going, but
Hmm.
taking system. Yeah, because it'll stop you every time. Those high achievers, oh, it'll stop them because your nervous system knows you're going to keep going.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, so
Brilliant.
so
Yeah.
do you know why they call me the Mushroom Man?
The Mushroom Man.
Yeah. Do you know why they call me the Mushroom Man? Because I'm a fun
Oh,
guy to be with.
Oh, that's terrible. Terrible.
I was
Terrible.
just thinking about where we find mushrooms that.
And what you feed them. But anyway, I'll just
Yeah,
keep that to
yeah.
myself. This is a family show,
Keep
so
them in the dark. Yeah.
exactly. So,
Hey,
So good.
listen, we come on. You know, I could carry on doing this, but I'd be try and keep them to half an hour. And I know we're going to have a limit, but it's been a pleasure having you guys on again, and especially you, Sue. And
mhm.
hey, look, we should come. Hopefully, you'll come back again. And be another guest at another one, like.
Honored to. I'm so happy to be here. So happy you asked, and honored to come back any and every time.
Yeah. Well, we love you, baby.
Oh, thanks so much.
So come back and take part again in another one. Uh, Listen, everyone, thanks very much for joining us again. And don't forget, keep sending in the questions, whether you're a person living with pain or a healthcare professional who support us, people with living with pain. Ask us anything to do with self-management. But the questions are sending in are fantastic. And
Lovely.
next week we've got another guest. I think Dave will be back with us as well. And we've got Dershni from South Africa. I think she's an OT, so she's going to be joining us next week. I'm not sure about who's going to be the week after that, but I know at the end of July we got another Canadian, uh,
From
Go
Colorado.
Canada.
Virginia McIntyre from the People in Pain Network. So I look
Nice.
forward to that as well. But I look forward to all of these ones, because it's I don't know, I just enjoy doing it and then meeting up and that's what we do. This is what's if we want to go back to that term again, self-management. It's about connecting with people and getting the messages out there because it can get a bit confusing for a lot of dudes, healthcare professionals. I know you guys struggle. You
Hmm.
told me it's as simple as that. So anyway, thanks very much for joining. Take care, everyone. We'll see you again soon. Be cool and groovy. Be kind to yourself. And don't forget to put the suntan lotion on.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.